Hey, folks, welcome to the Accessible Hunter Podcast. I'm Greg Trainer along with my co host, Mike Hudson. And today we're in for a really good podcast. We have Bree Holmes, who is the 2026 ambassador for Miss Wheelchair, Pennsylvania. And she's going to be joining us here in a minute. But first, Mike, what's going on in South Carolina, man? You avoiding this snow and staying warm, or what's going on?
Man, we're doing okay. We lost power for a few days, but we got it back up. We're doing good. We're waiting on the second round to come in now. It seems like all the northern stuff has shifted, and we're slated for another 5 inches of snow. Doesn't sound like a whole lot to northern folks, man, but here in South Carolina, we just don't have the equipment to clear the roads and whatnot, so it just makes it terrible. The snow, I don't mind. We just keep getting a bunch of ice, and that just plays havoc on our power lines.
Yes,
And I think
sir.
that's why we have so much issue. But we're doing good, man. How are you guys doing in PA?
Man, I'm doing good. We got about maybe 18 inches of snow here, and they're trying to keep up with the roads. My wife dug us out of the driveway, and she was able to get her car out this week. But I'm letting my van sit maybe till things warm up. But it's 0 degrees here in PA now, so uh,
No.
I know Bree, you're on the other end of the state. How did you survive the snowstorm?
It got pretty deep. The snow, I think where we are, we got maybe about 10 inches and then 8 after the ice that came through. But
Mm,
it is still a lot. So
It is. Well, we appreciate you coming on the podcast today. And I started following you last year whenever I noticed your page. But for the folks that don't, follow you or haven't heard of you, could you introduce yourself a little bit and tell us a little bit about your background and your disability?
sure thing. So, I was diagnosed with neuromyelitis optica spectrum disorder, which is a really, really rare disease back in July of 2024. And before that, I had actually had a lot of issues, medically, and we just really weren't getting answers, been to the emergency room a bunch of times, and just was not getting the help that we needed, and things just kind of kept getting worse and worse. I found out from my own medical records when everything kind of blew over that I had actually been diagnosed with optic neuritis back in 2021 and was never told. And optic neuritis is actually one of the first indicators of this disease, as well as some of the attack symptoms that I had had later on in January of 2024. So when I had my initial attack in January, they believed at first I was having a stroke. And
Oh,
later on, yeah, it went to um, maybe it's MS. And once the tests and everything came back from that, they realized this is actually a more rare disease, which was the NMOSD. And everything came back for that. And I later started my treatment for that in July of 2024 once I found a good specialist. Those are also very rare for this disease as well. So it's
I'm
kind of hard to
sure.
find. Yeah.
Wow. That's a lot to take in and go through in just 2 years. And here you are, bounce back. Not even 2 years, right? Bounce
Yeah.
back and steady after it. So I know you're doing great things, and congratulations on Miss Wheelchair. What does that look like for day to day as an ambassador?
Yeah, so it's a lot of reaching out to the community, different organizations that, whether they're profit, nonprofit, that are involved with making a changes for people with disabilities. It's getting involved with our state representatives to make sure they're aware of how different legislature affects people with disabilities or changes that are already in effect that we can say like, hey, if changes are coming more so that you can be aware of to go this way or go that way. That way we can start to see some changes and positivity. It's also just being a presence in the community to say that
Sure.
we are here and make people aware of what we do, which is just spread awareness and then also help people with disabilities get connected with those organizations in their area so that they can get the help that they need.
Fantastic.
Bree, Mike and I both had spinal cord injuries later in life. Um, I was 31, and Mike, you were in your 20s.
Yeah.
Um, is somebody that acquired this diagnosis, this disability, what was like, or what was life like prior to your diagnosis? What were you doing, and how did this kind of change your world? I mean, when you acquire a disability or you acquire a spinal cord injury later in life, Mike and I always kind of like joke around that we had two lives, before and after. What was life like before your diagnosis?
Yeah, and I totally agree. That's honestly what it feels like is like there's definitely a before and then there's an after. And honestly, my husband has to remind me about, oh, that was just, last year that this all happened, or that was just in 2024. And I even sometimes I'm like, wait, when was I diagnosed? Because to me, it feels like I've lived like this entire lifetime of being sick and almost dying from it and then having to go through rehab and afterwards. But
Yes.
prior to that, I lived a very, very active life. As you know, I'm a prior service member. I served in the military for 8 years in the National Guard, and I loved being able to do that. I am a mom of two. I've, graduated from college and I got halfway through my master's and I'm eventually plan to go back and finish that, but it's on a back burner for now. But I would walk my dog for like 2 miles a day and, I was always out on an adventure doing stuff. I had, worked full time. And when I wasn't doing that, I was involved in so many different other activities and dog training and you name it. Like I was like, oh, I'll try it. Why not? We traveled a lot. We just did so many things. And then all of a sudden, when I started getting sick, we're like, something doesn't seem right. And it just
Right.
felt like, we were begging and begging and begging for help. And it wasn't until, I was practically at death's door that they were like, oh, yeah, there's something not right. So,
There's your problem right there. Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty difficult getting to that point and saying, God, why did we have to get all the way to here when like I was
Yeah.
doing everything right? I asked so many questions. We were supposed to see so many specialists and it takes forever to get into specialists, as I'm sure you guys know. And it
Yes,
was
ma'am.
too late. And then by the time we finally got in to see who we needed to see, the damage was pretty much permanent by that point. So,
Yeah.
just then it was, what are you going to do? You can either sit there
It,
and cry about it, or you can, you know,
it
take the good with
exactly.
the bad and find something to do with it. So,
Right.
I said, God, if this is as far as I'm going to go, as far as progress, then let's figure out what we do from here. So,
I'm overwhelmed with all the stuff that you did prior to and now. And that's the biggest thing is finding a way just to pick up and push on. We can't do anything to change our diagnosis. I wish we could. Um, but on the advocacy avenue, I'm a huge advocate. Love to get out, be able to talk more about how we can make change. How do we get in front of lawmakers? Not just sitting here talking about it, but being able to get in front of the people that can stroke a pen and make change. So when you were talking earlier, you go to a lot of different venues, you go to a lot of different organizations and talk. Do you have like a liaison that helps set some of that stuff up, or how do you get in contact with who you should be in contact with?
yeah, so we have our fearless leader. Her name is Kristen Briefstock, and she is our representative for Miss Wheelchair Pennsylvania. So she kind of leads us in our
Okay.
charge, if you will. And
Yeah.
she has amazing contacts. She's been doing this for many years, and she has a lot of contacts throughout the state that she helps us with. And once a month, in fact, just I think it was yesterday, we just were on a call and we take time each month to get together as a team and, learn something new each month. We have a different person come on, whether they're an advocate or whether they're a leader of an organization that helps people with disabilities to be able to present and teach us what they've learned or what they do with their organization. That way we then have those tools to be able to either connect with them and or push that information out to other people. And so a lot of times we share that information on our pages as well, and then later on connect with them, outside of that. And then I've also had some connections with the grant foundation for neuromyelitis optica called the Goethe Jackson Foundation, and being able to do some advocacy work there to kind of spread some more information about how rare this disease is, some of the new findings and that they're trying to come out with to help, as this, if often misdiagnosed, can lead to some very serious issues. So doing things like that, being able to participate in some really cool things has just been phenomenal. So
That's, just amazing what you're able to accomplish in a day to day. Where did you go to the rehab at, and how did how did like assistive technology help with the limitations? It's such a rare, diagnosis. Were they able to work with you and understand the limitations? What was that like?
yeah, it definitely took a team of doctors for sure. I went to Penn State Rehab that's over here. And I say Hershey. I think the address was like
Yeah.
Hummelstown, town, but I just
Oh
like
yeah.
it was Hershey. So luckily it was pretty close to home, and my husband was able to visit a lot. And it, like I said, took a whole team. I ended up being diagnosed later on with gastroparesis, which paralyzes your stomach, and they think that unfortunately it was just kind of a conglomerate of things. So we added even more doctors during that time to kind of combat some of the effects we were seeing. But it they understood they had to do a lot of research too, which I appreciated. But the biggest thing was my therapist knowing how far to push and then what not to do in order to make things worse, especially with like some of the nerves and things of that nature. So it really did take a whole team of everybody getting me to where I could actually get home safely. So.
You know, we're
Being
we're big proponents on advocacy and bigger than that, going to rehab. Greg and I both were able to go to a phenomenal spinal cord hospital in Atlanta. And you're right, PTOT, they're phenomenal at the jobs they do. They really kind of set the tone for, how do we get back to some normality. And then speaking of the rarity of what you're going through, is there what kind of neurogenic effects does it totally affect your legs? It's new to me, so I'm trying to figure it out. It's kind of one of those things you can't know every kind of disability about every disability. And so thank you for educating us.
Yeah, sure. So the optic neuritis part, the optica part of the disease
Right.
affects your eyes. A lot of times when the attacks happen, some of these patients, if you will, like they'll go blind or lose a lot of their vision. And without the life-saving drugs that we have today, um, sometimes it can be permanent. A
Yeah.
lot of the time catching it on time and taking the preventative drugs that we have. I'm on a one called Rituxan, which is every 6 months. That is there's other ones out there as well, but that is, if you say that around the community, like everybody knows which ones that is. But
Right.
the
Yeah.
preventative drugs are really the biggest thing that we have with this disease. There is no cure right now. That's what they've been looking for years, ever since they realized that it wasn't MS. They've been obviously looking for a cure, as so many of these diseases are. So that's a big component of it. And then the spinal cord. So a lot of times you'll see lesions, and another way they can tell the distinction between the MS and the neuromyelitis optica disease is these lesions are usually a little bit longer than the MS ones. And so they can look at it as that way as well, but it's often lesions. The lesions can also sometimes show up in the brain as well.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Bree, when you mentioned the part of the state you're from, and we were talking off air that you have dogs. I actually got two of my service dogs from Susquehanna Service Dogs in
Oh,
Harrisburg, and a good friend of mine, Lindsay, has Phoenix Assistance Dogs in that area. Do you had mentioned dog training? Do you rely on your dogs at home for any type of service dog behavior, or how's that working out?
Yeah, so I have taught her a lot, although she just does stuff for me at home. Years ago, I would say about a couple of years ago, she would do public access with me.
Yeah,
She was just amazing. So she knows how to close doors and pull things and do mobility assistance, like when I did used to do stairs. I
yeah,
don't,
yeah.
but so she does all sorts of things. She knows how to go get the kids. She knows how to do DPT. So just a ton of different things that she has just been phenomenal with that she still does here at home for me. So she's just been great.
You
Dogs are
know,
amazing.
that's what I was gonna say. We're so unworthy of dogs, man. They outpace us all the time. You mentioned stairs. What other accessibility issues have you seen to come along since your diagnosis and now? Has it kind of plateaued, or with a spinal cord injury, it just seems like I've been hurt 31 years, that at some point you would get to normality, and it just doesn't. It's not like that with a spinal cord where it just keeps changing.
I think at home it's been a little bit different because there's help, you know your way around that sort of thing, you can kind of
Yeah,
get by. But the minute you step outside, you
Hmm.
realize just how the world is still not made for wheelchairs and
right,
accommodations and things of that nature. It's just you think I still very much like am in the mindset of, oh, I'll just go. And I forget, is there parking? Can I get my ramp down? Does the sidewalk just end? Like, am I going to be hopping curbs today? Like, what are we
Yeah.
doing? Like, can I even get into this restaurant? I'm still like training my brain to like check the restaurant before you go. Is it accessible? Ask if these places are, accessible. Do you have ramps? Do you have handicap entrance? Like, I continually forget to be checking sometimes of this stuff because I'm so used to like just being on the go. And
right,
I am one of those positive people that I can do anything. And I can. It's just I do still need places to be
sure.
accessible.
Yes, ma'am. You know, Bree, you have such a great attitude, such positivity. And we don't know why we're put in certain situations. If you're, religious or you want to think about it, you can say, why did God, you know, put this put this challenge in front of me? Or you can just, kind of say to yourself, why am I going through this sometimes? But has there been a moment or situation in your life that you can kind of say, this is my purpose, this is why I'm fighting this battle, or why I'm here where I am today?
Yeah, I feel like I try to avoid like the, oh, why me? Like, why God? I say, what now?
Yeah, yeah,
There you go.
And try and like, all right, let's go. I do. That's not to say that I don't have like pretty parties every once in a while. And I definitely not to say that I don't miss how things were. And it doesn't matter what you go through in life. Like, I think people have always grieved what things were, whether you have a loss, whether it's
Sure.
a loss of a person, a loss of something with your body, that sort of thing. Like everybody has to go through their own battles. But I try to always say, like, okay, what now? Like, what now, God? Like, what are we doing next? And so I think that for each stage in your life, you find what you're supposed to be doing. And I definitely feel like this stage of my life, it's advocacy. And I think it's great and I love it. I love what I'm doing. And if that changes, then I'm all down for the next stage of life. And if I stay doing this, which I absolutely love, then I will be perfectly happy with that. I just love what I do. So,
I love how you said that. Everything we go through is individualistic, right? It takes time to grieve, and we need to respect everybody's grieving portions, because everybody does it different. And in speaking to some lawmakers, I just had a question. Have you seen anything or heard anything in your interactions with them that just kind of surprised you that they either knew or didn't know?
it's not so much the specifics, it's just the fact that like when you bring some of these things in front of them and say, "Hey, like this is being proposed, here's how it will affect us or our community, like which way are you leaning towards this?" It's the, "Oh, I never saw it that way. Oh, I didn't know this is how this
Right.
would affect." They if you're not in it, if you're not in the seat, if it's not you that it's directly being affected, to them it's nothing,
Sure.
bad, but to them it's another law, it's another piece of paper that they've got to, review, and just kind of like they've got so much, they're being inundated with so much. And if
Yeah.
you do not go and speak up for or against whatever it is that you're trying to make a difference on, they really are just like, okay, this is great, this sounds great, this looks good, or oh, this is bad, this looks bad. You've It is so important for us to be that presence and say, this is why, this is how this affects us. And so to me, I think it's not really the specifics of things. It's just the fact that, like, if you don't explain it, they're gonna, oh, okay, well, that's why, that makes sense, kind of thing.
Absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head about having a seat at the table and explaining things because people want to help. They want to understand, but nobody has the forethought to check a restaurant or to check parking or check curbs or doors or entrances or a million other things that as a person with a disability we have to think about before we go to a restaurant or before we go to a venue, a hockey game, a baseball game of where am I going to park? How am I going to get in? Where am I going to be seating? So many what ifs that we have to think about. And prior to my injury, I wasn't a bad guy. I was just clueless. I had no idea what people with disabilities have to plan for every day.
Yep.
It gets to where if you don't have an empathetic dialogue and explain your seat, they just don't get it. And, so often we go through life and we're trying to make change. We see the change. And when it kind of, Bree said it kind of, it's not that it flies over their head, but they're just, I was naive. I
Hmm.
took everything for granted. Prior to my injury, there was nothing I couldn't do. If it was there, I moved it. If I couldn't move it, I'd go around it and never thought a thing about it. And now little things are massive chasms. And, if you have a crack in the concrete, that might as well, in a chair, might as well be trying to cross the Grand Canyon. And so it's a raising awareness. It's not I don't like the whole squeaky wheel, but if you're not there talking about it, then it doesn't get taken care of. And it's not always about you personally, it's about the person coming along beside or behind you. So, Bree, thank you for doing that and being able to raise that awareness. But I had a question about independence. So often we want to get out and be able to do, and I see you got pretty good hand function, all of that. But what, in your own words, what's independence for you?
Well, that definition has changed.
Yeah,
Yes.
It
no
used
doubt.
to be, I can tell, it used to be just me. I am you can ask my husband, I am independent to a fault. I'm pretty stubborn. I'm
Uh,
trying to say it gently, but if I
right,
do
right.
have to say one of my faults is, like, I'll be stubborn and I can do it myself. And so I've had to, like, redefine that, like, obviously, like, asking for help is okay, getting help
Hmm.
is okay. And I've found that when I push myself to be independent, it can be detrimental to my body. And so what
Hmm.
I used to do independently doesn't look the same anymore. So I can still be independent and be myself, but still have to have that assistance or not be able to ask for help and know that I'm still completing a task. But there might be assistance from other people, or like you said, like you guys have, like an animal, however you need to get it done.
Yes.
There might be some assistance involved, and that's okay.
It's really difficult to ask for help sometimes. That's one of the hardest things I had to learn early as a spinal cord injury person is asking for help, always being independent and being able to do whatever I wanted to do when I wanted to do it. And now, we have to ask for help on a lot of tasks, and that can be difficult for people. Sometimes at least it was for me. Um, One of the things that I wanted to bring up, Bree, is I noticed on your Facebook that you were an archer, that you were shooting a bow, and that you had gotten a grant for a bow. Um, Archery's, my all-time favorite thing. That's what drives me. I really like archery. Have you always done archery, or is this something after your diagnosis? How did you get into archery, if you don't mind me asking that?
Yeah, so actually, I would say a very long time ago. I don't want to age myself, but way back when I was in college, I had a friend that we were just at their house, just having a good time, and they just so happened to have like a bow set up. She had a compound bow, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." I was like, "You mind if I try it?" And she's like, "Sure." So she shot a couple, showed me how to hold it, this and that. Just so happened to be the same, bow setup that I needed. So I was like, "Cool." So I shot it and was hitting like dead center every time. And she's like, "You've never shot before?" I was like, "No." And my husband shot, he was like missing left and right. It was great. So,
Yeah.
so that was the first time I've ever shot, and I never shot again after that. And then uh last year I expressed that I wanted to shoot again. So for my birthday, my husband got me a class. It was like a one-on-one instructor. And this time it was with a recurve, and I just same thing, like just was nailing them. We had so much fun hitting targets, balloons, moving the targets around, just all that sort of thing. And I had a great time. And the trainer was like, you should actually take classes. Like, this is great. Like, you're really good. You've got great form. You should try this. I was like, cool. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but sure. So that ended up into looking into grants, and they at Lancaster Archery they actually have a bunch of different instructors that have taught people with disabilities of various functions, whether it's wheelchairs or that sort of thing, different setups, and have actually helped train people for Paralympics, which is really cool. So I felt like I was in really good hands. So I did go ahead and get a grant, and I was so very thankful for that. And got my stuff set up and have started classes, and it's just been such an amazing experience. So.
I love the fact that you keep wanting to challenge yourself. That's kind of what it's about. Re-identifying ourselves, if you will, reinventing ourselves after the injury or whatever, or diagnosis, and being able to get back out. So if you had somebody sitting in front of you that was just diagnosed, what would be some words of caution, some words of advice, coming from somebody that's been going through it for a little while now?
Yeah, I would definitely tell them to like that it's going to be hard. Like no one should
Yeah.
be telling you like, "Oh,
Hmm.
it'll get better." And I think in a sense that it'll get better only if you accept that you have to accept that like this is your new normal. And then
Hmm.
from there you can make things better. Like you can learn to do things differently. You have to understand that it's going to be different, and different isn't bad.
Right.
It's just as long as you have that positive attitude, that's gonna what's gonna keep you going. Like you have to find joy, you have to find new things. Like I did with the archery, like you've got to find something to keep you going and motivated to get up every day. And it is gonna be difficult, but it's not impossible. And you can still do things that you love. It might just look different.
Hmm.
Wow. Wow. That is just so well said. And Mike and I try to echo that, in our daily lives and on the podcast to let people know that you are still able to do almost anything you want to do, just a different way. And the thing that you said that struck me was finding joy. We have to still find joy. We have to find passion. We have to interact with our friends and family. We have to get out in the community. If we limit ourselves to staying in our room and not going out and not trying new things, man, the world can close in fast on you. And I just love that you're out there setting the standard and trying new things. And you remembered archery shooting from whenever you were a little bit younger and revisited that. And as you know, there's all kind of adaptive equipment. Archery can be like golf. You can play golf as a teenager, you can play golf as an old man like Mike and I. So it's just finding a different way of doing it. Is there new challenges or new experiences that you're looking forward to this year or in the future that you want to try as a person with a disability, as a wheelchair user, something that you want to work on or try out this year?
Yeah, I And much to my husband's great pleasure, I would like to try camping.
There you go.
And I am not into like bugs and stuff, which he laughs. He's like, "How did you survive the military?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't know. Well, I survived, but and it was great." But so camping is a big one and also kayaking. I
Okay.
love kayaking and I have not been able to go yet since I've been diagnosed and have had gone through all this. And my kids love kayaking, so I think it would be a really great thing to get out and do this summer. We just have not gotten to it yet, but we will once it warms up. So,
One of the big things I wanted to mention with your adaptive kayaking is last week we had Marcy Mowery on from the
Yeah.
Pennsylvania State
yeah.
Parks and Forest Foundation. And in your area, they have a lot of adapted kayaking
Yeah.
docks. I don't know if you're familiar with Marcy and her
Hmm.
program, but that would be awesome if you guys could hook up and do that. Would love to, have you spotlight it or highlight it and kind of tell us what your experience is on that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I did hear about that. And I am looking forward to reaching out and connecting with her. And I will definitely do that for sure. That would be really fun.
I'm I'm definitely
Absolutely.
I'm definitely on the wrong end of the state, Mike. It seems like everything's happening out in the Harrisburg area, but I'm a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. I don't know if I could root for the Philadelphia Flyers being out that way.
Hey,
I was just wearing that sweatshirt earlier, so
Oh, we we
I should have kept it on. Oh
we
no.
we wouldn't cancel you on the podcast,
we
Bree,
just have to blur
but
it out.
but I'd have to blur
Oh,
that out some way. But that's part of what makes this state so great is we have the rivalries, and it's just awesome that sports can bring everybody together, and we joke around about it, but I won't hold you being a Philadelphia Flyers fan against you.
I love that.
Bree, getting out and about is always important, and finding new ways to be able to be advocates and speaking up is highly important. So keep doing that. And I love what you guys are doing in PA. You guys got me kind of jealous with the parks and recs and all that going on. We're working more in South Carolina as well. But what's one of the pet peeves that you've seen that you would really, that's kind of your sticking point when it comes to um, advocacy and getting out? Is it like something in parking lots? Is it more doorways? Is it, because we see that a lot. And I know
Yeah.
me and Greg have been in chairs for a long time and just people parking in grates and things that
Yeah.
you're like, hey, come on, it's common sense. It's striped off for a reason.
Yep.
But I didn't know if you had just something that's a stickler.
I'd say parking. That's
Yeah,
probably the biggest thing for me is I just went out yesterday and we, just quit trying to pick up a prescription. And if the snow's not in the handicap parking, then, people are parking in the hash lines because the snow, I mean, it's just a
Right.
mess out there right now. But even when there's not snow, we've got, people that don't have any tags or plates or anything, they're parking
sure.
in there and which, okay. But I try not to complain, but I've got to get the ramp down. And so I go park in Timbuktu.
Yeah,
Yes.
And whether I've sometimes I've even taken up two spots and I hate doing that. I hate doing that, but I got to get out. So I take up two spots and then someone will come and park right next to where the ramp
yeah,
gets out. And I even have a sign on the ramp that says,
Yep.
leave room for, the
yeah.
ramp.
Yep.
So then I come out and I'm stuck. So I would say parking is probably the biggest thing. I love being independent. I love in that aspect and getting out. I love being able to get places, but it gets a little frustrating when you get there. And then even when you try and park out far, it still becomes an issue. So
Right.
that's been my biggest thing that I've kind of run into. So,
It makes it difficult. You have to defensively park, and if
Yep.
not, then
mhm.
you get stuck waiting on somebody else to come out from the store, or even if you can find them. Uh,
Yep.
Yeah.
and I was in law enforcement. I wished I'd paid a lot more attention to that back in the day, and
Yeah.
start snatching cars. I don't know if I'd have been as nice knowing what I know now, but that's a learning curve too. Yeah, I guess you can teach an older dog new tricks, but go ahead, Greg. I know you had another question, man.
Oh, I was just going to ask Bree, after your time here at Miss Wheelchair, Pennsylvania, what was going to be your next goal, or what's going to be your next challenge that you want to work on either professionally or personally. I don't know if you're working or back to work or what that situation looks like for you, but what's next after this challenge?
Sure. Well, I think most of us have made a pact to kind of go back to Miss Wheelchair Pennsylvania again this coming year. So we'll see what the future holds for the rest of my sisters. But I definitely would love to go. And it's not just like the competition and going for the crown. It's not just that. It's the fact that you are talking about a platform that you pick as your own, and being able to share that with the state. And if you are crowned, you then go on to nationals and are, broadcasting that and sharing that with the world. So I think that's just such a great opportunity. So whether I stay with Miss Wheelchair Pennsylvania as a state and go back and compete again next year, or this year, I should say, this fall, I do still feel that my place for right now is in the advocacy world. So that is something I am going to continue to do.
Awesome. That's awesome and such a great program to be a part of. And it really seems like you touch a lot of people. And advocacy is just a joy for me whenever I get to talk with somebody and maybe create a spark or create a light that they didn't really think that they could do this, or they have a family member or a friend that's in a chair or has a disability, and they're going to go home and talk to them about some of the things Mike and I do and some of the things you do. And if we can motivate people and kind of help them out. That's always what we're into.
For sure.
You mentioned school. Is that something that's on your horizon, or I know you said you were getting close to being able to finish up with your master's and being able to work on that some more. Is that something that you got coming up, or are you just going to keep it kind of curtailed for a little while?
Think it's on the back burner for a little bit. My husband's finishing up his degree and my kids are homeschooled right now. So it's a
Yeah,
bit busy, but I think once things settle down a little bit more, then maybe we shall circle back to that.
Gotcha.
we sure appreciate you coming on today's podcast. And if people wanted to get a hold of you or had a question, is it okay if they reach out to you? And what's the best way to do that?
For sure. They can check out my Miss Wheelchair Ambassador page on Facebook, and I would love to connect with them that way. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me there. And I believe my email's on there too. So
Perfect.
Good deal.
We'll make sure we put that in the links. And thank you for your service, 8 years in the military, everything you've done for, us personally. I appreciate you. And Mike, do you want to wrap us up for the day?
Yeah, man. Miss Bree, thank you for taking the extra time, and I enjoy your personality. Keep smiling, keep pushing forward. It's easy to sometimes get in ourselves and get down. You're right. We go through every day can be a little different. So, keep striving for those good days. But thank you so much for taking time and for all that you pour into advocacy work and just bettering other people. Whether we like to say it or not, I don't like the word inspirational, but we are living lives that people can see and we can inspire them to continue to do more and more, I guess. And if you don't mind, if you'll send us those links to um, your diagnosis, to some other things, so we can educate so many others. And thank you again for taking time to educate me on some of that. It's awesome to be able to learn new things, to be able to be a better advocate myself, and to be able to open up things. I mean, it's just like you can't talk about every disease, every diagnosis, and kind of until we figure it out. So keep sharing your story and that empathetic dialogue. But I just wanted to thank you again for your time.
yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yes, ma'am.
Folks, thanks for listening to the Accessible Hunter podcast today. As always, we appreciate you, and we'll be back next week.